boxing is extremely romantic. And that boxers tend to be tragic figures who are pure flame, like dancers who lead reduced lives afterwards, because that is where they burn brightest. The boxer is a person who is willing to compress everything into this short life. My love of the world is immense, and the world has loved me back. My father never had that, and he didn't have a father, but his real father once tousled his hair for 2 seconds on the streets of Clonmel. That was it. Good morning, Barry. Great to see you.
See you too. What a very impressive painting to be met with. Fabulous.
Yeah. This obviously comes out of Jackson Pollock. Jackson Pollock was painting on the floor like this, imitating Indian dancing. And I made this connection between boxing and painting.
Yes.
Because I thought what was great about it, about the whole idea, which I never thought of before, was if you take this and you lay it on the floor without any paint on it, it's a boxing ring.
It's a canvas.
Yes, a canvas. And when you pick it up, it's a painting.
Amazing.
Isn't that nice? Now, these I want to show you. This is something I really want to show you, because this is something you're
Tell you who I'm really interested in seeing.
Huh?
Oisin. I want to see Oisin.
Oisin.
I want to see
Let's go see Oisin. Yeah.
Oh, look at that, Bobby.
Here.
Hello. 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 Oh, big and bright and observant. Hello, you. Hello, you. Hello, you. Show me these wonderful
Yeah, I want to show you something.
Okay.
This is important to me.
Right.
I'm not saying it's important art.
Okay.
But I'll tell you the whole story. Yeah.
Boxing is something that seems extreme, that is both celebrated and heroic, but also something which we would be frightened of doing. And it is historically firmly embedded in versions of masculinity. The spectator is drawn in to something which they would disavow outside of the stadium, but within it, you are drawn into this kind of storyline. You want the damage. You're thinking, knock him out. But on the other hand, you're thinking what could happen if he does?
Are these all paintings? Or...
These are all paintings that recently arrived from Deptford.
Right. Right.
London.
You've got a studio in Deptford too?
No, I gave it up.
Right.
I moved out of England because I think I need to be in this culture.
Yeah.
And Germany, America.
Yeah.
I think they don't love painting in England.
No, too much kitsch.
Yeah, too much, you know?
Yeah.
Too much image building.
Yeah.
Look. That's how I used to look.
You look pretty good. Wow. I'm trying to think. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
This painting behind is called Empty Heart.
Empty Heart.
That was painted for my son.
For your boy who died?
Yeah, and it was a self-portrait. So with these paintings that I made in the 90s, at the end of the 80s, this I think was at 89, this is a figure, represents a figure. So it's an insert. So I was trying to put the figure back into abstraction.
Yeah. How long after your young boy died did you make this painting? So you were 44, so that's 20 years ago, right? So
Yeah, so I was 44.
So it's 88, 89.
And I made this painting for him about 5 years after he died. That's quite a thing.
It certainly is.
To lose your son.
And terrible, terrible. There has been a terrific synergy between boxers and artists and writers. I mean, right from the word go, and people, I suppose people out there who are of less violent nature find it hard to understand how someone could love, you know, great writing, great literature, and yet love boxing. But we have them way back. We can go back to George Bernard Shaw and Jean Tunney and Ernest Hemingway. Robinson was into tap dancing, and back to Jack Johnson. He loved playing the viola. He was a very accomplished viola and long neck bass player. Mickey Walker, for example, who was a great middleweight, painted naive paintings. Is that what it was called?
Life will feed or not art. And that's why art always comes from funny places. You never know where it's going to come from next. Before Caravaggio and after the Renaissance, when people thought painting was dead, people thought it was dead because it had reached a point of perfection. It was all getting far too mental, far too conceptual. So the world of art needed a warrior. It needed a warrior artist to knock it into shape with a kind of violence and directness. And what you got in the Renaissance was a lot of windows with landscapes, you know, Madonnas with a window with a landscape, an idealized landscape, trying to situate humankind in nature, but at the same time, divine. And Caravaggio shuts out nature and makes something that is violently theatrical and economic and symbolic in the use of color. That's what I love about it. I don't mean to make this into an art historical lecture. Just trying to point out the big differences. He was, as many people have said recently, cinematic. You know, violent shadows, black, 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 like Blade Runner. Black spaces are fearful and fearsome, and they carry all kinds of other messages, demonic messages. I'm terrified of the dark. I can't be in the dark because of the event that happened to me in a convent school where the nuns told me that the devil lived under my bed. And now I can't go in the dark. If I have to cross a dark room in the countryside, for example, Lily has to get up and can take me across. And these paintings are full of that danger. Life will feed art. And it's the same with this. And you're never going to get around that. It's always going to be a person's life that goes into art. So art feeds boxing. When I watch old fights, I watch the way Joe Louis and Rocky Marciano talked about each other. And there was a kind of dignity about the way these guys would talk about each other. They complimented each other. So I wonder what you thought about that and when you thought that maybe it started to become eroded.
I think, well, I know Ali changed all that.
That's exactly what I said.
Ali changed all that.
Yeah, because he
came in.
Trash talk.
He came in, suddenly he's a braggart.
Yeah.
He's a smart talker. I'm going to Big Bear, I'm going to whip your ass, and all that sort of stuff.
He's too ugly.
Yeah, he's so ugly, and all of that sort of stuff. And so everybody was so amazed and so flabbergasted. And also they saw the attention that he got. And so, consequently, I mean, he done a lot of it tongue-in-cheek. I mean, at the time, he was angry with Liston. At the time, he was angry with the world because of, you know, Vietnam, because of saying no, because of them stripping of his title and all of that sort of stuff. But I think when he looks back on it, and he'd done a lot of it tongue-in-cheek, but all the guys now that have come along and tried to mirror that or model on that or to copy that have never had, have been unable to have the same sort of class and coolness, and they weren't good at it. So that has now gone on to the next stage, whereas just so many fighters talk cheap and talk trash.
So do you think of him then as an artist in some way?
Well, he brought art because nobody believed that they could bring that type of skill and that type of movement, and that's ultimately what it was, I talk about the choreography and that movement and that positioning, getting your body into certain positions where you weren't able to be hit, yet you could hit your opponent. So that was art. That was a new type of boxing, a new type of technique, and movement and art. And so, I mean, I call it art because that's, to me, what art is. The art of self-defense. So not getting hit and yet being able to strike your opponent, that's an art. And so that whole movement, that whole shape and the way he moved, that to me was bringing art to the heavyweight division. If you look at the greatest athletes, the greatest, in my sport, the greatest boxers of all time, they really have, it's art. It's art, that's what it is. And you understand that, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And away. And 1, 2. Pull back in your right. Art form was better than art, because when you're drawn, you've got to have imagination. Do you understand? And you can draw, and I've tried to explain this to people. How is boxing an art form? How can you compare that beautiful picture? I says, the fella that's drawn the picture's got plenty of time. He's got plenty of imagination. When you're in boxing, I says, it's split second. Art form, I says, he just makes you miss that way. And if you're going past, he goes bang, bang, and you're on the floor and you think to yourself, how has he done that? How has he knocked me down? You know, some of the movements, you see, well, Muhammad Ali, at his best, going out like that and shuffling his feet and moving and going boom, boom, and there. He's got his hands down there and you can't hit him. What's better art form than that? That is human art form, because if you make a mistake, within that much distance, you're going to get knocked out. You're under so much pressure. You're so under so that you don't get knocked out, because these fellas are absolutely supreme at what they're doing. But if you're doing a beautiful picture, which is lovely, you know, and they're under no pressure to do it. in my opinion, they might be that they want to create something beautiful, but they know in the profession that they're going to get knocked out or get killed doing it. Where when you're in boxing, you know, you get a fella doing that and hit you with that one, and you think to yourself, what's he bloody done? How's he done that? You get somebody like that doing that. If you've done a ballet, they say, oh, beautiful movement, that ballet dancer. The movement Muhammad Ali done was beautiful to watch. As good or better than any ballet I'd ever seen. Red and yellow and pink and green, orange and purple and blue. I can sing a rainbow, sing a rainbow, sing a rainbow too. Have you heard about the big strong man who lives in the caravan? Have you heard about the Jeffrey Johnson fight? When the big black man licked the white, you can bring all the amateurs you got. Got a little lad to lick the law. Plays the organ in the belfry and he wants to fight Jack Dempsey. Who's that? That's my brother Sylvester. What's he got? Row of 40 medals on his chest, big chest, he got an arm like a leg, sofa leg, and a punch that a sink out of ship, big ship. Sylvester.
Boxing offers you the human body in some of its most beautiful states, as well as, of course, its most tragic. If you think in terms of art, of classical art, of sculpture, bodies are very central to the way in which sculpture uses musculature, and very often it's boxing bodies that are used, you know, through a classical sculpture. It has many of the components of what constitutes art. It's got an aesthetic that is organized around criteria that appeal to beauty, the routine discipline, the training, which is also part of art as well. You know, that you have to have that kind of routine discipline, except that boxing also has its dark side.
Take me down. What you wanna do, baby? It's on you. Take me down. What you wanna do, baby? It's on you. Take me down. What you wanna do, baby? It's on you.
I see in that face a kind of haunted determination, an element of sorrow in it.
It's very intimate when you're boxing. Has to be, because punches whiz by your chin that, you know, miss your chin by millimeters, and the difference between slipping a punch and getting nailed with a punch can be fraction of a second. So if you're not completely and totally focused on your opponent, then those milliseconds can be disastrous. So it has to be completely... I was never able to focus on anything else other than the guy that was right in front of me. I never looked at anything else, never saw my family, never saw anything, because I was completely concentrating on him. You know, I remember after the fight, because that was probably a week before the fight, and for the last week before the fight, I was thinking about the young guy that I'd killed in the ring, and
Young Ali.
Yeah,
and that's it. And I
was thinking about him a lot, and thinking about if I were lucky enough to win, I would get the chance to see it.
Yeah.
And just say it's for him, it's dedicated to him. So,
Right.
yeah, so there is an element of sorrow there too, but I had to do it.
Yeah.
It was
It's
determination.
It's determined. Immediately after the Second World War, there was a very strong sense of shadow and imminent death, people missing. The whole issue was to be somehow romantic, to be different. So practically everybody I knew was delusional. And that was their great quality. They all had extraordinary ideas above their station. And they would all be scheming, you know, sitting in pubs and thinking up ways to beat the system. There were all these empty spaces, you see, after the war. There was the infrastructure. A lot of it was bombed, of course. You know, we lived in a paradise of ad hoc playgrounds, you might say, you know, facilitated by the absence of 4 buildings that had been somehow evaporated. And there were all these wonderful jungles everywhere. There were romantic figures that were always being referred to. And that boxers had names like Sullivan, you know, and Corbett, Fitzwilliam. And these guys all have Irish names, which gave credence and romantic credit to simply being Irish. You know, I went to a Catholic school. I had a wonderful life in that convent school. And then I went to Gillespie Road private school, state school, sorry. And that was truly scary. And there I learned boxing. There I learned how to fight. And I'll never forget the first day. It was horrible. And I realized that it was violent. I remember I got into a situation that was like a David and Goliath situation. It was a boy, big, tall boy with red hair. And I don't know how I was not able to negotiate myself out of this fight, but I wasn't able to. And of course, I was a midget compared to him. I took a wild swing at him and busted his eardrum. And his ear started bleeding. After that, everybody thought I was Rocky Marciano. And it had a simultaneously unfortunate effect, which was to confirm me as a person of violence.
Hold it, man, hold it back. There you go.
You were hitting it hard.
No, I was hitting it easy because you were holding it.
Oh.
I'm only joking.
Well, you can hit it hard next time.
Yeah, that's good. Warms you up. Blood's flowing. Very good. As soon as I started boxing, I heard the names of likes of Muhammad Ali and Barry McGuigan. And I said to my father, Lord have mercy on him, I says, Jesus, I'd love to fight Tyson one day. And he says, if you work hard and believe in yourself, one day maybe it'll happen. And through God, got the opportunity to fight Mike Tyson. And you know, as a kid dreaming, you know, as a young fella, growing up, wanting to fight him, meet him, never mind fight him, and actually to meet him and then fight him in front of 20,000 people and 19,990 probably said, this man ain't got a chance, you know. Like reporters were asking me, you know, afterwards, but they said, what was the truth you had before the bell? And I went and I said, honestly, what the hell did I get myself into? You know, this is real, this is tough, but someone up there was helping me, you know. I actually pushed him to the ground, I said, but I give him a good shot, and he went down, like, and he quit. That's my defining moment in boxing, and as far as boxers, but the biggest fight of all for me was the drink, you know, because you know, you beat the most feared man in the world, but something this small, you know, knocked you out, you know. So, but thank God, you know, 6 months sober now, and you know, only for boxing, I probably wouldn't be in this world because it is like a high that nobody could ever imagine, you know, like the euphoria, the adrenaline, when you're in the ring, it's you know, it's the most peaceful place in the world, you know. It's like you say you love Ireland, you know, I love Ireland, but when you're in a ring, you think you're in Ireland, you know. This is your country, this is your town, this is your home. And you know, there's a guy in already who's trying to knock you out and try to probably kill you, but you know, you're not actually, you know, there's no fear, you know, maybe there's fear and doubt and all that before you go in the ring, but once you're in there, like I change him just like you switch on the light, you know, it's and it says kill or be killed, and it's in a, but I know when I go in the ring now, sober and clear-minded, like I can accomplish anything. So all I have to do is to visualize it, believe in myself, and reach for my goal. And even if I never get to where I want to be the heavyweight champion of the world, at least I know in my own heart I give it my best on what I had and what I did.
That's it for the big guy. Boxing, sure, yeah, boxing is an art because, you know, the thing is, if I know the punch you're going to throw, I got no business getting hit with it, right?
Right.
And I can make you throw a punch. That's when you're thinking. I mean, you can be strong as a bull, but if you don't have it between the ears, I mean, let's face it, you got to be able to think.
Hit and not get hit is the idea.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Got to be able to move. You know, it is an art. There's no question about it.
The stories that are told about boxing are largely stories of male heroes, and that it's difficult for women to buy into those stories, to be part of those stories. It has strong associations with masculinity that can't actually be sort of wiped clean. You can't wipe the slate clean. I don't actually think that's a bad thing, because it has a wonderful history. It has a wonderful, wonderful histories, artistic histories, creative histories, as well as sporting histories. And that the solution is not to say, oh, well, we should eradicate that. I think we should celebrate it. And as a fan, I'm very keen to celebrate it.
I started drawing when I was young, when I was a kid. And I used to draw, I used to do a lot of boxing drawings. And then when I got to be older, I got through art school where I didn't specialize in boxing, but it was natural for me. And I came from a city in America called St. Paul, which was a boxing capital when I was a kid.
Yeah, I've been
Dempsey fought there, they all fought there. And I used to see all these guys fight, and I admire the fact that these two fit people, same weight, same training, same background, same attitude, that they get in there and face each other for no reason at all, just to make money, you know, for a fight. They're not mad at anybody.
Right.
They get in there and they fight each other. And I think it's terrific. I tried it. I boxed when I was a kid. I had no heart. The boxing as a kid was better than fighting in the streets with the bare knuckles.
Yeah.
You know, so come from a poor neighborhood,
Right.
you fight on the streets.
Yeah.
And you don't learn how to fight, you just get beat up. I used to lose most of my fights. But you had to fight. You couldn't just back down or quit or turn it down. You had to participate, save face. I had a certain natural skill to draw, and I love to draw. I still draw all the time.
Yeah.
And
You became very identified with boxing. You're like the court painter to the boxers.
yeah, I was an insider. I love those guys because they're all street kids. They're all like me. Mm-hmm. And they all come from poverty. Mm-hmm. And they had quick fuse to settle anything with their fists that they could. It was a proof of your masculinity and a proof of your... You had to hold your dignity in your family, in your neighborhood, and it's a good way to live. It gets in your system, and you can't shake it.
I've seen you at the fights.
Have you?
Yeah.
You're a real fight fan, then, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm always there.
Yeah, I've seen you in the ring very often.
Yeah, I get in the ring.
Yeah.
I know all those guys. I knew Joe Louis. I knew everybody. Yeah, so they love those people.
The fighter and the warrior is in fact the key question. A fighter is a person who is always willing to fight. But warrior is very round and complex, being committed and not walking away from something that would be easier to walk away from. If you're an artist, you're a kind of cultural warrior, in the sense that I am fighting for values that are under threat. In Irish mythology, the warrior and the poet are always put together because they're the same thing, they're indefinable. It's a complex form of fighting. Mapplethorpe was a hustler. He was an art world operator, very connected to what was going on. He was a real society person. Well, obviously, because he's connected to other people and he took pictures of people. Mine was probably one of the last photographs he took. I don't know how long he was working after that day, but he was pretty shaky. And However, his spirit was strong, you know. And he set me up, and I remember he said, "That's great, you're really scary." Which was more true then than it is now.
You're still scary.
Yeah. Well, it depends how easily scared you are. Anyway, let's see, he took those photographs of me, I think it was in 1988 or 89, I'm not sure. And I was at that beautiful moment in life where you have extreme physicality and intellectual prowess. So it was a perfect moment. You know, when you can have that when you're about 40, 45. And at that point, you know, I was still fighting, and he liked that. See, that excited him, because he liked extreme. He liked the extreme. Of course, he was a very sexy boy, Robert Mapplethorpe, an extreme personality, and he made these extraordinarily beautiful silver gelatine prints, as you can see here, in this array of photos. And he used a light that popped. So when he took the picture, and he just photographed what was in the foreground, what was in the background was destroyed. It's kind of viscerally, sexually minimal. And you can see this also in Caravaggio. You know, St. Matthew looks out of the painting, and he looks out from a background that's just blanked out. And before that, the backgrounds were very elaborately painted. And these photographs are like flat sculptural moments where everything is popped out except the miraculous moment, the miraculous breath of that person is made permanent. But that's the point of art. And I always describe art, I like to describe art as a footprint that's preserved forever.
Artists always had, at least the abstract expressionists always had this devotion to boxing. I first began to box in the Marine Corps, that's another story, but remained interested in it, still look at it in television, and was interested to find a quote by the great world champion Gene Tunney, and I liked it so much that I jotted it down. And this is what Tunney says. If there is any extreme form of individualism, it's ring fighting. You wage your own battle all by yourself, no partners, no comrades in there with you. Like dying, you fight alone. So consider the prize fighter as a spiritualist, individualist, a solitary soul in travail, end quote. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. So we both admire Gene Tunney because, like us, he's a bit of an intellectual.
Yes.
He fancies himself as an intellectual.
Yes.
And this is what diminishes him in the eyes of the public. I see him as the inventor of modern boxing. The guy who reads poetry before a fight. The guy who can be out and in at the same time. This is something that Muhammad Ali was capable of, and Ray Leonard, I think. They could be out and in. They could think about it and do it all at the same time. They had this sense of overview and involvement. So that comes closer to art, but it's still not, in my opinion, like Beethoven.
Sean,
That's art.
Sean, what is?
Jackson Pollock.
Okay, you're right. No, and you would be too modest for me to say a Jew.
No, I wouldn't. I think I am working on that level. I think that false modesty is overestimated, Irving.
Yes.
He was a phenomenal hero. I mean, he was the biggest.
Dempsey.
Dempsey was a huge hero, and yet they fell in love with him and fell out of love with him. And then, of course, they called him a slacker because he didn't go into the war.
Into the army, yeah.
In the First World War, the Great War, and then Tunney came along, of course, and Tunney was the war hero, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he was an erudite sort of individual who lectured on Shakespeare in Harvard.
Yeah.
Incredible. And his best mate was George Bernard Shaw.
And Tunney, I was talking about this the other day, Tunney beat him twice, right? Out of 20 rounds, he won 19.
Yeah.
And Jack Dempsey is more famous.
Yeah.
And Tunney did everything right, which must be wrong.
Yeah. That's interesting. The public are fickle. He's just a remarkably good-looking man.
Yeah, but what's also interesting to me about that is how accommodatingly modest and civil Tunney is to Dempsey, who he vanquished twice. And you can see that by the language of defeat. That
Can you?
Dempsey has taken up all the space he wants, and Tunney has moved his foot over
to accommodate him.
As really a chivalrous gesture, I would say.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
He's apologising for himself.
He's apologising
for beating him.
Yeah, that's right. There's something slightly self-effacing about it, but not about Dempsey.
Yeah.
What I'm very attracted to with Gene Tunney, and of course Ray Robinson and Ray Leonard, there's something about them that seems aristocratic. And that attracts me as an artist, because there's something in them that has the soul and the spirit of an artist. They look at something with distance. They look at what they're doing with a certain inventive distance. And that is a high form of human engagement, I find. And with painting, there's always a sense of distance. You have to have distance because you have to transform a material, but you can't do it by simple physical insistence. The imagination has to be engaged, and it's the imagination that elevates any craft into something that we like to call art. He became unpopular as a sports figure because he wasn't mythic. But he is mythic because he's an inventor. He was a gentleman. Of course, he comes from an age where boxing was considered to be the noble art, which it is. I think it's quite beautiful. I think it's very calm, and I'm sure it's something that I will remember afterwards as a serious event. What strikes me now is, since the birth of my own son, how differently I see that photograph, because I idealize that photograph, partly because of my mother's comments, and partly because I didn't really have anything to measure it against. But now I see my own son, I see what a confident, trusting, happy baby looks like. And when I see that, I see that that's not it. It's not what I thought it was. And I'm not quite as robust as I thought I was.
When you look at your dad, what strikes you about that?
Well, how delicate he was. He was a barber, you know, so he had to suck up to a river of English snobs, toffs, because 50% of his wages were tips. He'd come home every night and fill the end of the table with coins, count them all up in little towers. And he was a sportsman. He was a fabulous footballer. He was chosen for Arsenal, but he couldn't play because my grandmother needed him to go to work. And this, in a way, explains part of his rage, because he was extremely gifted and very talented. But he could be fantastically violent. He's a very proud man. He's very artistic, you know. He entered the Barber of Britain contest, came fourth best barber in Britain, and he considered it art, but he didn't know the difference between things. That was it. It was kind of naivete about him, you know. And, you know, he thought that hairdressing was art. He didn't understand that if something has art in it, it doesn't make it art. And he didn't understand these fine distinctions. He thought that artists were really pretentious posers. In my kind of art, and in a lot of performance art, where people use their bodies strenuously, there's a definite relationship between physical exertion and a kind of spirituality. So that you reach an elevated sense through this physical commitment that you make, and the idea of work and craft and commitment and effort all come together in a kind of revelation. You are, in fact, unloading your knowledge as you are entering more deeply the painting in order to discard sophistication and replace it with revelation. So it's an extremely romantic undertaking. Take a little break now. It went very well. So folks, to be continued. I'm into it. Can't stop the train now.
What you wanna do?